Alright guys, it's Jerningham here. These officers that did that killing in the Wendy's drive-thru in America at Atlanta, I'm going to show you what the news is going to be about it. Here we go, I'm going to put that on there now. So we're going to press the video in a minute and we can get a bit good understanding about it. Give you 1 second. Should the phone balance? Yes, it should.
Also, major developments in the death of Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta. Tonight, the 2 officers involved have now surrendered to face charges. Officer Devin Brosnan, accused of aggravated assault and violation of oath. Hosting bodies free tonight, going on cable TV today to defend himself.
Thank you.
Hear what he says about Rayshard Brooks, saying he was friendly, that this was a trap. Meantime, the other officer, Garrett Rolfe, facing 11 counts, including felony murder. He remains behind bars. And tonight, the video of Rayshard Brooks, what he said just this year about his experiences with the criminal justice system. Steve Osensami from Atlanta again tonight.
The divisive images tonight out of Atlanta. City police officers going to jail. 27-year-old Garrett Rolfe, the former officer who shot and killed Rayshard Brooks in the parking lot of a Wendy's restaurant, is fighting a murder charge. He's being held without bail. 26-year-old Devin Brosnan is accused of aggravated assault and walked out hours later on a $50,000 signature bond. He then went on cable TV sharing what everyone has seen in these police videos, that this police encounter started peacefully.
I felt he was friendly, he was respectful, I was respectful to him, and I felt like, he seemed like someone who potentially needed my help, and I was really just there to see what I could do for him, make sure that he was safe.
Go down and up. They determined Brooks was drunk, and when they tried to put him in handcuffs, he refused, and it got physical. He's seen wrestling one of their stun guns away, and when he reaches back and points it towards Garrett Rolfe, Rolfe fires 3 shots. Brooks dies. The bullets shot through the parking lot and barely missed witnesses in their cars.
These cops have been killing people. So I'm like, okay, they wrestling with this man, and the cops telling him stop fighting, stop resisting.
The rank and file of Atlanta police believe the shooting was justified and that city leaders served these officers up for political reasons. Police across the city have been calling in sick. The official line from police is that the numbers are small, saying in statements, we have enough resources.
I want a bag of cookies today, people.
And remain able to respond to incidents.
Is it a bag of cookies?
Our job is ugly to start with, and now you face the chance of
Bag of cookies.
best spending the rest of your life with president.
Nice.
Before he was killed, Brooks was trying to recover from having a criminal record and spoke about being trapped in the probation system with a group called Reconnect, focused on justice reform.
I just feel like some of the system could, look at us as individuals. We do have lives, it's just a mistake we made, and, not just do us as if we're animals.
He felt the justice system was unfair to Black Americans. The prosecutor in this case is speaking tonight, sharing that he will not seek the death penalty
Nice
for
cookie.
former Officer Rolfe. The funeral for Mr. Brooks is scheduled for Tuesday. David?
All right, Steve, our thanks to you again today.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Where the hell is me? Quite some more news channels. I do watch a bit of this. This channel's quite funny. All these things I've shown here are quite funny. Cross the line. Don't cross the line.
between 16 and 18. So that's another criticism. But of course, on top of all of this, we have the questions about when schools will actually go back. And the Health Minister, Nick Gibb, you just heard from earlier today, again reiterating the government's determination to get schools back in September, but with social distancing rules as they are. And even if they are reduced, I think it is still going to be very, very difficult for schools to get back to normal without any extra resources.
Thank you very much indeed. The Office for National Statistics has just released the latest information about coronavirus-related deaths in BAME, Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. And Sky's Ashish Joshi has been looking at that. Ashish, what does this show?
Further confirmation, Adam, of what we have known for some time and just how disproportionately COVID-19 has been affecting Britain's black and ethnic minority communities. We have further analysis of that today, the latest data from the Office for National Statistics. The group most singularly affected by COVID-19 is the black community in this country. According to the ONS figures, black men are twice as likely to die from COVID-19 than their white countrymen, and black women are 1.4 times more likely to die from COVID-19 than people from a white background. And it also says that men from the Bangladeshi, Pakistani and Indian ethnic communities also had a significantly higher risk of death involving COVID-19. That's at 1.5 and 1.6 times respectively than white males. We've also had a breakdown for the first time of religion and how religion people from various religious communities are being affected. It says that the mortality rates are highest in the Muslim community, with also the Jewish, Hindu and Sikh communities also at a much greater risk. But interestingly, it says Jewish males are twice, this is once it's been adjusted by the socio and demographic breakdown, further adjustments, Jewish males are at twice the risk of Christian men. And this tranche of data published by the Office for National Statistics comes at the same time as there's been a study which has been published in The Lancet. And this is a study carried out by the University of Edinburgh, which says South Asian people are most likely to die from COVID-19 once they've been admitted into hospital across the UK. They've been looking at thousands of patients who are admitted with COVID-19, and it looks like diabetes, particularly within the South Asian community, is one of the biggest influencing factors. Although they have fewer comorbidities than other communities, certainly the diabetes, the prevalence of diabetes type 1 and type 2 in the South Asian communities having a big impact on the number of patients who are admitted into hospital and the way they are subsequently treated, whether they're intubated, and the outcomes for those patients, much greater risk within the South Asian community.
Ashish Joshi, thank you very much indeed. Well, here's some of the day's other news. Police investigating the killing of two sisters in Wembley have received more than 100 calls from the public following an appeal for information. Detectives believe Nicole Smallman and Biba Henry were stabbed to death by a stranger after celebrating a birthday in Friant Country Park. The suspect is thought to have suffered a significant injury during the incident. Anyone who knows somebody in the area with an unexpected injury has been asked to contact the police. A police officer has been shot dead and another injured during a traffic stop in New Zealand. Authorities are trying to track down the suspect who drove away from the scene in Auckland. An abandoned bus in Alaska, made famous by the book Into the Wild, has been removed for public safety. The bus has long attracted adventurers to the area where there is no mobile phone signal and unpredictable weather. Tourists have been repeatedly rescued from the area, with 5 Italians suffering severe frostbite being rescued by Alaska State Troopers in February. Well, non-essential shops in Wales will be able to reopen from Monday as lockdown restrictions there begin to be eased. Later today, the Welsh Government will unveil further changes to the lockdown rules, and the man is going to make those announcements is the First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford, who joins me now. Mark Drakeford, thank you very much indeed. So fair to say Wales moving a bit more cautiously than England. Would that be a fair summary?
Well, we are certainly taking an orderly, careful approach to lifting the lockdown here in Wales, making sure that we put the needs of people's public health at the very forefront of what we do. But we have some additional headroom in Wales because of the way in which coronavirus is reducing in Wales. And we'll be using that headroom today to open non-essential retail from Monday, to open our schools from Monday the 29th of June. And if all is as we hope it will be, on the 6th of July, to lift the stay local restrictions that we've had here in Wales throughout the crisis.
But the slogan for now remains stay local, does it?
For the next 2 weeks, it's very important. It's been a very big contribution that people in Wales have made, not travelling across the country, staying in local communities, stopping the virus from spreading. But with the virus now at a considerably reduced level, provided it stays that way for the next 2 weeks, we think that will be the right moment to lift that restriction. And it's an important part of a signal to our visitor economy, our tourist economy, that people will be able to travel inside Wales and from outside Wales to enjoy the fantastic scenery and the opportunities there are for leisure here in Wales.
Now, how are you able to open schools when in England and in Scotland, they're not even sure they'll be able to do that by September?
Well, we've done it in a different way. We've always had a plan to reopen on the 29th of June in a gradual and controlled way. Over the period of the rest of this term, all children in Wales will have an opportunity to come back into school, to check in, to catch up, to prepare for the summer with their teachers and to meet again their classmates. But there will never be more than a maximum of 1/3 of children in school at any one time. So we are doing it in that careful and controlled way. And because we've had time to plan, known that this is what we're going to do, we're confident we'll be able to deliver that here.
And how long do you envisage that going on for, only having partially open schools?
Well, we will learn a lot from the rest of this term for what we will be able to do in September. But frankly, I think we have to say to parents in Wales that even in September, it's likely to be a blended approach of education, a blend of remote learning at home with learning inside the classroom. We're not in September going to move back into a world in which coronavirus has completely disappeared. People die of coronavirus every day in Wales still. People get coronavirus who didn't have it before every day in Wales. And while we can go on carefully and cautiously restoring freedoms to people, we shouldn't be under any illusion that everything will simply be back to normal in the autumn.
What level of alert do you think we are now at concerning COVID-19? We had that sort of graduated 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 structure. We've been in 4 for a long time. Where do you think we are now?
Well, in our system, which is a sort of traffic light system, red, amber, green. Red is basically the equivalent of 4, and we've been in that. I think we're moving into the amber zone here in Wales for many things, and that will put us at the sort of 3 level equivalent. So we're moving to 3 in Wales. Not every part of our economy and society will be there yet, but if you think of it as a balance, we've been in the red zone. We're moving firmly into the amber zone, and that's the equivalent, broad equivalent, of that 3 level on the UK scale.
You're clearly following the science, because we're just seeing that the chief medical officers of England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, Dr. Chris Jones, all say that they think we're now in level 3, which means that there is a COVID-19 epidemic in general circulation, but transmission is not high or rising. Now, what about the 2-metre rule or the 1-metre rule? Where do you stand on that? Because, of course, in Northern Ireland, they've now reduced that to 1 metre.
Well, the advice we are getting from our Chief Medical Officer and scientists is that at this point, the 2-metre rule remains important. That if you halve the distance, you double the risk. Now, coronavirus is declining in Wales, as you just reported. And as it goes on declining, provided we can make it do that, then the context will change, and it may be that the advice we will get will change as well. But when we asked last week whether the 2-metre distance was still the right thing to be advising people in Wales, we were told we should go on giving that advice. If the progress of the disease continues to reduce, maybe that advice will change because the context will have changed. And if the advice changes, then policy will change in Wales, because we really have done our very best to stick to following the advice we have, where we get the advice and we change our policy in line with the changing advice.
Big question, of course, as the summer holiday season approaches, is when will people be able to travel to Wales, welcome in Wales, able to go to holiday lets or second homes or camping? And indeed, of course, when will that needed economy come back into the Welsh, needed economic assistance come back into Wales? What's your answer to that? Will people in late July and August be able to holiday as usual?
Well, two important signals for our visitor economy today. If we're able to bring the stay local message to an end in 2 weeks' time, then people will be able to travel immediately to visitor attractions in Wales. But I'll be saying today to the tourist sector that they should prepare now. They should use the next 3 weeks to prepare to be able to welcome visitors back into self-contained accommodation. So that isn't quite everything on the list, Adam, that you read out. Where you are able to go to a static caravan, where you've got your own cooking and your own bathroom facilities, where you can go to a cottage that you've rented or a hotel that's organised on a self-catering basis, that we hope will be able to reopen in Wales with bookings that can be taken now from the 13th of July onwards. Where people have to share facilities on campsites, for example, we're not signalling a reopening of that sector yet. We still have to do this in a way that is cautious, that is careful, that does one thing at a time, that checks the impact of that on coronavirus. And if all goes well, we can do more still in this tourism season, but some powerful signals from us today for that sector to prepare to reopen and for us to welcome people back to Wales, and from people in Wales who will want to make their holiday in Wales this year to be able to prepare to do that.
Mark Draper, thank you very much indeed. And we'll have the First Minister of Wales announcement live here on Sky News at 12:30. Just to bring you the breaking news this hour, latest statistics from the ONS do confirm that the risk of COVID is far greater for BAME people, including especially for men, and it suggests that diabetes could well be a factor. Well, Australia is claiming that it is being hit by a sophisticated series of cyber attacks. The government says the hack is targeting all public and essential services. Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister of Australia, has so far refused to name a culprit, but he stressed that there were only so many state actors capable of this level of cyber attack.
This activity is targeting Australian organisations across a range of sectors, including all levels of government, industry, political organisations, education, health, essential service providers. What I simply can confirm is there are not a large number of state-based actors that can engage in this type of activity, and it is clear based on the advice that we have received that this has been done by a state-based actor with very, very significant capabilities.
Let's get more now from our Foreign Affairs Editor, Deborah Haynes. Everyone thinks he's talking about China. Why isn't he naming it?
Well, it's a provocative move for a government to come out in the open, as the Prime Minister has done, and say that their country is under attack. It's all part of the tools that governments, including the UK government, use to try to deter this kind of activity in cyberspace. However, it's one step further along that scale of trying to deter when you actually name the culprit. And also, of course, in some cases, it can be quite difficult to identify the origin of a cyber attack. That's why they're used, because they're so good to deny. However, intelligence sources are being widely quoted in Australia as saying that it's believed with a high degree of confidence that China is the country behind this attack. And why does that matter? Why is it not surprising? That's because over the last few months, since the COVID pandemic started, tensions between China and Australia have been rising, because Australia was the first country really to come out openly and call for a public and independent inquiry into the origin of the pandemic and into China's handling of that pandemic. And that prompted a very angry response from China. There has been a pushback with trade tariffs imposed on Australian goods. The Chinese say it's nothing to do with the inquiry in coronavirus. It's a completely separate trade matter. But in Australia, there's very much a suspicion that they're being hit by China economically because they've pushed back against China in the space around the coronavirus. It's also important to note that Scott Morrison spoke to our Prime Minister Boris Johnson earlier this week about a trade deal, and in that mentioned this cyber attack. The two countries closely allied on intelligence, and will be watching in the UK very closely what's happening in Australia.
Deborah Haynes, thank you very much indeed. And just to recap the breaking news this hour, the Joint Biosecurity Centre, which comprises the chief medical officers of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, have some comparatively good news about the COVID outbreak. They say that the COVID-19 alert level can be reduced from 4 to 3, red to orange, meaning the epidemic is in general circulation, but transmission is no longer high or rising exponentially. You're watching Sky News. Coming up next, who will be footing the bill for the UK's soaring borrowing? We're going to speak to Baroness Owen.
Well guys, that's just a quick video. Hope you've all enjoyed it. Give it a like, give it a comment, share it with your friends, and I'm back in the next stream. Peace. See you later.